Good morning. This is your August 17th, Monday Master Pattern Report. I'm your host, Dr. Bob Flower. Well, let's see how we did last week. We sure hit up against some stiff opposition on the S&P. As I had mentioned to you last week, that 1014 was, that's the opposition point. It's where the energy really is strong. And we bounced and we bounced down, and then we made a little bounce back up. But and today it looks like it's down pretty good. So this is a bounce off of that opposition point. And what has to happen here is we have to have a little consolidation to make another run at that. Now we may not be able to break through it this time again. And you might see a further bounce, but it looks like, from everything we see, looks like it will penetrate, and we'll go on to make some better highs. There's a lot of positive talk going around about the economy, about real estate, and things like that. But there's a lot of fear and doubt and uncertainty in many areas. There seems to be a tremendous void of leadership and understanding and clarity on all levels, and rightfully so. Oil is still in this trading range, the mid 60s to the low 70s. I think we'll see that for a little while. I think what's going to happen here, from what I see with the patterns, and I haven't overlaid them yet, but I think what's going to happen here is that when the market breaks up, so will oil. Oil will follow it shortly thereafter. Interest rates are just trying to bust out here, and they're being just held back by the Treasury and other nations as well. The dollar was weak last week, and is continuing. So what do we have in store for us for now? Well, we think the dollar will rebound here, but it will weaken. The rebound is a short-term thing. The weakening is going to be a consistent thing. You're going to see the dollar almost disintegrate, and it's being done on purpose, folks. It's the only way that they feel that we can get out of this and pay our debts is by actually, cutting the value of the dollar, which cuts the debts. Right? Otherwise, it's taxation. Silver and gold are weak right now. Silver hit $15, broke $15, and then bounced down. So and probably will bounce down around that $14 level. But we think next week, mid to end of next week, we'll see the end of any weakness there between gold and silver, and I think we're going to see a nice little run on both of them right into December. And we think that the S&P will definitely bounce within the next week to 10 days. So how are we looking at things? How are things going? Well, healthcare is turning into a mess all over the world. There's talk in Europe. I had received a report last week that there is a 33% chance that the economy in England will fail. 33%, and this is pretty well accepted throughout Europe and in England as well. Your state and local taxes, if you haven't seen it yet, you will, are going to be murder. All kinds of different fees, fees for your cars, for your bicycles, for your gas, for everything. Crazy. And they're not getting the aid, of course, from the federal government. So just going through the roof, folks. Just as we been predicting for the past 2 years. All right. Now, if you want to know what's a model for what's going on here and what could end up happening, look at Iceland. Now we've talked about this before, but let me give you sort of an update on what's going on in Iceland. They went from importing help from Europe to now having a 10% unemployment rate. That means they went from not having any unemployment to a full 10% and higher. I mean that's big time. That's big time. We've always historically had at least a base of like 4.5% unemployment rate. Well, that's not happening anymore. I mean, we're up to 9.5. They went from 0 or plus to -10. Okay. Their corporate interest rates are 25%. You want to borrow money there? It's 25% if you're a corporation. All right. Now their GDP, which is interesting, is at 180%. And they're getting killed. Britain is draining the citizens there dry because of outstanding loans and bonds and funds that they've granted there. And their penalties on default rates, the British banks and British government, their default penalties on Iceland are 40%. 40%. Now get this one. This all started when Lehman went belly up. It took two of the largest Icelandic banks with them. All right. These banks were, although they had very little reserves, they were then taken over by the British government and Dutch companies, for instance, ING. Oddly enough, when the Dutch companies took over, 2 weeks later they received over $13 billion in aid from the IMF. 2 weeks afterwards, and they didn't need it. Now, the American company that's been behind this, with all of this, involved behind the scenes, is Goldman Sachs. Okay, time for a couple of announcements. We have a radio show, WVOX, The Advocate, coming up this Wednesday. That's the New Rochelle station with Richard Garfunkel. We'll be talking about health care and the Obama administration. It's at 12 o'clock. We have a book signing on September 20th at Barnes & Noble at 6:30, Barnes & Noble on Central Avenue. And we're doing a workshop for Success International. I'll have the date and the time for you on that. But try and listen in. It's a call-in show, WVOX in New Rochelle, 12 o'clock this Wednesday. Have a good week. We got some other interesting stuff coming up for you. Stay tuned. See you soon.